Hey everyone, it's Presley at actoutgames.school here, and today we're going to be doing a Presley's perspective on homeschooling, and I guess we'll just talk about what we do in homeschooling, and I could tell you if there's any changes I'd like to make or anything. So this will also just be here to help people stop talking bad about people who homeschool. It's not going to happen.
Right, I don't know. There's a lot of people talking bad about homeschoolers at this point. But we'll see.
Yeah, but sometimes there are.
Right.
And they're like, homeschoolers have no friends. That's wrong. I have like 10,000 friends.
Lack of socialization, right? And because everyone who follows your blog knows socialization is not a problem for you.
Yeah, I have like 2,000 billion friends.
Right. So, we do homeschool Presley. We've talked about it off and on, and we've done a couple of vlogs about some homeschooling things.
Yep.
We do get a lot of questions about it. People ask us quite a bit what we do and why we decided to do it and things like that. So we've decided that we're going to do a blog around our homeschooling.
Yep,
and
on my page. It's in the description.
There'll be a link in the bottom. It's actually called mymessyhomeschool.com. Is the URL that we registered for it. I just set it up on WordPress tonight, and there's not really anything on there, but there'll be a link to this video on there and some basic information. We'll start fleshing it out over the next few weeks. But it gives us a place to kind of refer people to give some of our philosophies around homeschooling, why we're doing it, resources that we like, those kinds of things. So I thought we'd kick it all off and just do a Presley's perspective. We're sort of due for one. We haven't done one in a while. And we haven't really done one on homeschooling yet.
Did you say my Presley homeschooling or my messy?
Messy. mymessyhomeschool.com. Because homeschooling can be messy sometimes.
Yeah, it can be really hard.
You get hands-on. So that's right. That's excellent. Good job, Presley. So it has a dual meaning, like everything I like to do. So it means we do a lot of hands-on experimentation, and we're in the kitchen mixing things together, or we're in the garden doing things, or we're traveling to national parks and doing all kinds of things. And you get really dirty. It can be a pretty messy thing doing homeschooling, but it's also hard. And it can be, like, a lot of times you don't know if you're doing the right thing or not, and it can feel messy. The whole process can feel very messy. So that's the other meaning for my messy homeschool.
Yeah. And there's also, in this video, is going to be tips. If you're thinking about homeschooling, then there's some tips on, and then here's some tips on how to homeschool.
Yeah, that's what the blog's kind of
going
going
to be.
have
like a dialogue for you, Bob.
Yeah, so we've got, when I was working on putting the blog together, I put together a handful of just kind of guiding principles for what we do with our homeschooling.
Yep.
And I was going to talk to Presley about those. She hasn't seen them. That's why she's looking at them. I've actually got them on my laptop sitting here next to me so I don't forget anything. And we'll talk about those really quickly during the perspective here and let Presley kind of give her point of view on those ideas that we try and follow. And then on the blog and on follow-up Presley's perspectives and blogs that we do, we'll go into more detail around each one of these and how we try and do it. But keep in mind, like as with the name, this is always pretty messy, so it's not a real clean, everything we do follows these guidelines. It's just things we like to keep in mind while we're doing it.
Especially that one.
We'll do them all.
That one there.
I know. Hold on.
It's not.
So you can tell us which one is most important to you as we go through. But let's start at the top, right? So number one, and one of the most important things for us when we're putting this together is that you can probably hear the cat playing on the toy in there. One of the most important things is that it's child-led, which means that Presley kind of guides us in what we study, what kinds of things that we're studying and looking at. And if she's not ready for something, or she's really resistant to something, or not showing a lot of interest in it, we move on to something else and we come back to it.
Like we come back to it when I'm older and when I'm more calm or ready for it.
Yeah, or sometimes she'll get interested in something else, and that will lead to an interest in the thing that we started with, right? They kind of grow on each other, and they feed on each other. And one of the things I think people do wrong in this space, I guess we could talk a little bit about there's homeschooling, or school at home and unschooling, right? You know a little bit about those, right? So it's kind of the spectrum when you homeschool. On one end, you have the school-at-home folks who still do like 8 hours of school a day, and they break it up into 1 hour chunks, and they teach They basically teach a school curriculum, but they do it at home. And then there's the other side, which is called unschooling, which is not doing anything sort of formal and structured.
We're kind of in the middle there.
We're in the middle. We're more on the unschool side, definitely, but we're not all the way in the extreme. But we're more in the middle. And so this child-led thing, I think that a lot of the unschoolers, they won't teach their kid anything unless the kid actually approaches them and asks them about it. And we don't go that far because there's a lot of things Presley doesn't know about. I mean, she doesn't know if she's interested in a topic that she hasn't had any exposure to.
Yeah.
So we do think it's our responsibility to expose you to lots of different things. And then if you express interest in one of them, then we dig into it deeper. And if you don't, we kind of move over and look for something else. What were you going to say? Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Since we're kind of in the middle there, they still teach
Hey, Clyde,
things.
knock it up.
They still teach things, but they don't exactly do anything formal 8 hours. They just spread it out over a week.
Yeah.
What I liked, we've stopped doing it for some reason, is like we have a weekly subject. So we do one subject for the week, the other week, and then so you do a new subject every once in a while. Every, say, 6 weeks, and then after those 6 weeks are over, you go back to the first subject. And then after you know a lot of, and then after I know a lot of those things, we move on to the next subject. That's the plan, but we only got through 1 week we only got through 1 week of chemistry.
Yeah, we switched to biology just recently.
Yeah.
But the chemistry that we studied helped us out a lot with the biology that we started working on. So, we really spent a lot of time on how things connect together and how they're not distinct, unique subjects. There's very few things that are just really standalone. So what I was going to say before, though, that people who do unschooling, like the child-led, we definitely don't just wait for Presley to approach. We expose her to different things. And the other thing that we follow that's kind of in the child-led space is what's called unit studies. Which is if Presley is interested in a topic like Greek mythology or biology, or she was really into dinosaurs and fossils a while back.
Yeah.
And so we use that to teach lots of things, right? Because you can teach geography about that. You can talk about where different fossils were discovered. You can, teach history, and geology comes into that because you're looking at how the fossils were formed and different things. So there's a topic of interest that's something like Harry Potter. There's curriculums out there that are entirely based on Harry Potter, and not entirely, but for the most part, they center around the Harry Potter universe, and they teach you all kinds of different subjects, but they use Harry Potter as a story mechanism.
That would actually be a really good idea because there's all kinds of different school subjects in Harry Potter which you can.
Not true. Right? They study
like you can
subjects.
pretend you're at Hogwarts and you're learning like astronomy, astronomy and things.
Like
and
potions could be chemistry.
Potions could be like chemistry. Ooh, and care of magical creatures could be biology.
Exactly right. So we do a lot of that, right? So there's a lot of the warrior cat books and whatever Presley happens to be into. We spend a lot of time there, letting Presley's interests guide us towards how we teach and what we teach.
Yeah.
So I think that's our fundamental principle. And you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
It's working out pretty well for you?
Yeah, it's working really well. Like, say, I like the Familiars books. So we should have. I don't think we were, doing this right at the point when I was reading Familiars books. Because I had to wait 2 years. That was 2 years ago. I had to wait 2 years for the next book. It's almost out. It's out next year. So, yeah. 3 years, actually. So I liked that we could have done biology. We could learn, we could have done biology and we could have done stuff that would relate to Familiars.
We did some animal classification stuff. That's part of where you learned the genus and species and stuff like that was part of that. So we did a little bit of that, definitely.
And we're also just interested in biology.
That's right. Yeah, so that, you take that and run with it, when she's interested in animals, then, you sort of run into biology and all kinds of different classifications, and where she shows interest there, we dig deeper, and that's how we got into physics and things that we talked about, just where she expresses interest. So let's move on to the next thing, so this doesn't take forever. The next, I'll skip one here, and this watch, talk, do is one of the things that I believe in the most. I got some, reassurances from Destin at Smarter Every Day, there's a link on the blog. I've already put it up there. So if you go to the mymessyhomeschool.com, you'll see some links to some YouTube guys that we watch there. Yeah. We've talked about most of them before, but this is the idea. We watch a lot of YouTube videos, right? So I'll tie this in with one of the last things I've got here, which is access to experts and great teachers, right? There are these amazing teachers that are available on YouTube, and they do these videos, and they're free, and you can watch them. John and Hank Green, Emily, Derek and Veritasium. That's right.
Yeah. Really good.
Destined Smarter Every Day.
We have this group of people.
We have a core group that we look at, and those are on the blog, so you can definitely check those out, and I highly recommend all of them. Can't speak highly enough about what they do, but they're brilliant, they're entertaining, they're passionate about what they're teaching. It makes all the difference in the world, and there's no reason that you have to be stuck with whatever teacher you get assigned to in your local school district or whatever. These people are at your disposal. They teach amazing videos. That said, they're teaching like a 15-minute chunk of what they're doing in chemistry or biology or world history or U.S. history.
You haven't actually heard of they're now doing literature.
I heard they're doing lit. I haven't looked at the lit stuff yet, but I'm really interested to see it. But so it's not you put your kid in front of that and you walk away and their education's taken care of. Right? That's not how homeschooling works, right? We watch them together. Presley and I will sit on the couch and we'll watch one of the biology videos.
Or me and Mommy will sit on the couch. We'll watch like literature. We'll watch U.S. history. Mm-hmm. We'll just sit there on the couch and then we'll talk about it. Talk.
So we have a conversation to make sure.
To make sure that I understand everything, and if not, we'll go back into the video and watch it over again.
Right. We'll find another video that
and then if there's any projects in the video which we're allowed to do, which we can do, we just do it.
It's okay. It's a timer.
Yeah, it's a timer for my brother's bath.
Yeah, right. So that's exactly right. So we watch a video that covers a lot of the core concepts. I have a really good handle, or Dawn has a really good handle on what Presley understands already. So I can kind of tell when we're watching a video if something's going to go past her a little bit. We don't typically stop the video. I'm letting her kind of learn a lot more about filling things in by context, and she's doing a great job with that. So I don't, it's not a problem to me if she doesn't understand something while we're watching it. We just kind of plow through and then see if she can figure it out by what's going on in the rest of the video. At the end of the video, I want to make sure she got all those concepts, so we have a pretty long conversation about how things work. I try and simplify things or explain.
And you guys also like to add on to things.
Yeah, we expand. That's true. Knowledge. Yeah, we expand and talk about.
And also, the good thing about that is when we're watching the next video, I'm like, oh, I know that.
Yeah, sometimes we expand on the video we watched, and the next video turns out to be about that thing that we expanded on. So she's already got some foundation there.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the last thing is do. So we always like to do experiments. We travel. We want to go places and see historic sites. We want to do chemistry in the kitchen. We do physics out in the garage. We build things. Mm-hmm. You want to get your hands on as much as you can to really make it sink in, and that's helped Presley a lot to be able to understand those. So this, watch, talk, do method that we do, I think it works really great for us, and seems to work well for other people that we've turned on to it, or people who we learned it from. So it seems to be a good thing. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to touch on real quick was this idea of curation. So this is something I'm curious to hear your opinion on. So the world we live in today, information is right at your fingertips. It's easy to go to Google or Wikipedia or whatever and search for all kinds of information and get facts, right? But what happens is you get different people offering their view on what the truth is. Mm-hmm. And so learning how to tell what's true and what's not true. If you go read 5 different articles about something or 5 different web pages about something, and they all kind of say something a little bit different, how do you know which one of those is right and which one of those is not right?
Okay, so first, if I don't have any knowledge of the subject, so I can just go like, this is totally wrong. Mm-hmm. First I would look at the things which look most fake, which look silly, made up. Mm-hmm. And those things I sort of keep in the group, but I don't really think of them as a thing. The things that look more realistic, I take a look at those and see if they can find any flaw, which is probably it's made up and stuff. And then after doing that, the one that has the less flaws and bad thing made up stuff would be the true.
I think you rely on the most. Yeah, look, I think that's a great answer. We've never had this conversation before. I'm really thrilled with the answer that she just gave because I think that's really good. And it ties in a little bit. So I think that teaching the ability to curate material is a thing that doesn't get done very often, and I think it's critical because, I mean, the kids are on the internet, they're finding information. It's not that hard to find information, so sort of memorizing these facts is a little less important to me.
And it's really not hard at all to find fake information.
That's right. So being able to tell what you can trust and what you can't, what a trusted source, and you get to a point where there are sources that you trust and sources you don't. This ties a little bit to one of the other things, which is concepts over details. I focus a lot on understanding the overall concepts of things and less on the memorizing the details, because you can look those up and you can find them. And exactly what you were just describing, if you understand sort of conceptually, like the atom stuff that we were just doing, the ionic and covalent bond stuff, right?
Yeah, if I just understand them.
Yeah, you understand it at a high level. That's right.
An ionic bond is different than what an ionic bond actually is. I'm just like, no, that is not right, go away now.
Yes, that's right. So you understand the concepts. So when somebody starts explaining the details and the details don't fit with the concepts that you understand, you can sort of dismiss that a little bit.
I can just be like, no, that's probably not right.
But we talked about, we did this. So we talked about, there's videos that we've got posted on like the structure of an atom and electron clouds and shells and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And because we understood that and we talked about that, about how that worked, when we started talking about covalence in ionic bonds, Presley understood what that meant because she knew what a valence shell was, and so covalent sounds like sharing valence electrons, and ionic sounds like building ions. Yeah, making an ion.
Ions sticking together.
So without telling her what those meant, or what types of bonds those were, I could say there's a type of bond that does this and a type of bond that does this. One of these is called covalent and one's called ionic. And she knew which was which because she understood the concepts. Mm-hmm. So focusing on high-level concepts and letting the details kind of fill in as you go is one of the things that we do as well.
I want to talk about this one here.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it has to do with video games.
It does have to do with video games, right? So this is one of my favorite ones from early on. Kids, I don't know if it's a more of a current trend, it seems to be, but kids hate to fail, right? They hate to be wrong, they hate to do something that...
They've always done that, I think.
I think so too, right?
I don't like to fail.
Yeah, and if you get something that's hard and they may miss it, they give up, and they don't want to do it, they don't want to try it. So how did we cure you of that?
Video games.
Video games, because it's digital failure is what I call it, is always okay, right?
Yeah.
You restart, you go back to a checkpoint.
Try again. And if you die, that's not going to happen in real life.
Yeah, we don't really have permadeath in our video games. And so, we even played, I don't even know if you remember this, but when we were playing Zelda a long time ago, we used to have these fail competitions. And Presley and I would compete to see who could fail in the most spectacular way in the video games. Just so you jump off a cliff, you start a fight with some giant guy and see what happens. You just fail on purpose.
Did we do one with Skyrim?
I don't think we've done one with Skyrim.
We should have done one with Skyrim.
Well, we still can, right?
My favorite way would be running to the giant level 2.
Yeah, that's right. Running to the giants and the mammoths, right? I did that by mistake. That was one of my epic fails. You saw me do that. He kicked me over the mountains, right? So
you got a flying lesson from a giant.
I did. But it teaches you that it's okay to fail and explore, and the way that you beat video games and the way you play video games is you fail, and you go back and you try it again, and you fail, and you go back and you try a little bit different way, and you try something a little bit differently, and that sort of problem-solving methodology it is perfect for the world. I mean, that's what I want Presley to apply in the real world. And she used to be terrified of failing, and now I don't see it in your life normally, and I really do think video games play a big part of that because we had a conscious. This is the unit study thing too. She was really interested in video games.
Down there in the
in the home theater downstairs in the new PlayStation 4, we're doing the same things, right?
Yeah. So my favorite way is the little silver character in Mac.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite ways to do failure is okay because the little guy in Mac is enough important with Mac. And
that was a brilliant move on their part.
Yeah, and that little Mac. If I'm going to call him Little Mac.
Okay.
Little Mac, if he dies, he can just respawn. The bigger Mac can just go do what's hard for the Little Mac to do, and then the Little Mac can respawn and continue doing that. And this is a great idea because say the Little Mac was a child, the little knack didn't understand something.
Right.
So the big knack go ahead and explained it, and now the little knack can do it again.
So I think one of our next vlogs in the next couple of days is going to be reviewing some of the games that we're playing, and this knack thing that she's talking about now is brilliant, I think. It's a great move on their part to put this in, and we'll talk in detail about how it works. But it's exactly that. It's okay to fail. Don't worry about it. Like I said, it's unit studies. She's interested in video games. She wants to play video games. I can use that to teach her something about it's okay to fail and try again. Yeah, go on.
We could use that to do robotics.
We could kind of use that to do robotics. He's a little robotic. Okay, let's run really long here. So obviously we have a lot of passion around this topic as well, and we enjoy our homeschooling most of the time, and this is a great topic for us, so you have to bear with us that we run a little bit over. And that's, okay, so let's go to the next one, which kind of fits in with that. Make it fun, right? I was having this really interesting conversation with somebody the other day about how around 4th grade, it seems like, is when...
Next year.
That's right. When they stop having, like, games and, like, cool computer things to sort of teach you the concepts and do those kinds of things. You're already kind of past a lot of those, but it's, normal curriculum in 4th grade. And then suddenly it becomes, like, 5th and 6th and 7th grade. It just goes back to, like, rote memorization and sort of dry delivery and those kinds of things. I mean, there is no reason that any subject can't be made more fun. Or you look at the John and Hank Green stuff and what these guys are doing.
And the good thing is that they fit comedy in with it.
Lots of comedy, it's funny, it's entertaining. I mean, if you look at the things that Destin is teaching on Smarter Every Day, I mean, they're very advanced physics concepts, but he's breaking them down. And I think what makes it really work is that he is passionate about it. You can tell he's really excited about what he's teaching. It's not some kind of, like,
not the kind of excited that, like, public school teachers are, because I've seen a video on public school teachers about doodling them, and they always seem to be really, really excited about boring things. But about boring things, what they say. But if you can make it fun, then it makes sense that you're getting excited over it.
Make it fun. That's right. Let's see. Did we miss any of the big things here? Childlike curiosity, more something, blah, 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 conceptual details. Yeah. So the last thing is sort of a shortcoming for me. What I do professionally, what I do for a living, is I run a data and analytics group for a higher education company, or an education company, and I focus in higher education. And so we're doing a lot of data analytics analysis of, like, student success and faculty success, and how well content is teaching concepts, and how well students are mastering those concepts, and if you master one concept, how likely are you to master another concept. And so lots of data to look and see what's going on in the classroom. And obviously you don't really have a lot of that available to you in homeschool. The products that I build aren't designed for homeschools. They're designed for institutions, or K-12 institutions. And so it's kind of hard to track and find gaps and do, like, assessment analysis to make sure that we're teaching her what she's supposed to be learning, or at least, so she's moving towards the assessments that are going to happen, like the Colorado assessments, the 3rd grade test you have to take next year, and those kinds of things. So getting your hands on standardized tests.
I mean, like, this year, kind of.
What's that, Tree?
I could turn them in this year once I get them.
Yeah, so I think in March, is when you're
my 2nd grade things are over there.
Yeah, I think in March is when you're going to take a test. So, you keep an eye out for those kinds of things. We actually use a couple of, like, SAT study guides as a guideline
for college already.
Right. So it's sort of a guideline for us to say these are the kinds of things that she needs to know to do well in the SAT and move into college if she decides she wants to go to college down the road, right? So
Currently, I am acing the reading test.
You are acing the reading, comprehension.
While talking about what you were talking about your group, I was going to say the funny thing is that it's called DERP.
It is called DERP. Yeah, well, I named because I'm kind of the boss. I named my team DERP because Presley does her derpy who's. Yeah, it's Data and Enterprise Reporting Products or something like that.
I thought it was like the Department of something.
Right. Right. So, I miss that data, and there are companies that are coming out with ways to try and get this data for yourself or homeschool. There's these really cool things called e-portfolios that people are working on, and my company's working on some of these things where, only a certain subset of learning over your life takes place in school, right? And so when you get a diploma, that diploma says you know how to do this. And that school is saying we vouch that this student knows how to do that. Whereas if I go do a bunch of Khan Academy classes, then I can say and go put on my resume that I know how to do multivariate calculus.
I know how to do. I forgot.
Yeah, right. So, but there's no one standing up and vouching for me and saying, yes, I would confirm that this guy knows that. So there are companies that are spinning up that are starting to do that. Learning Jar, I think, is a really cool one. There's several in the space. Acclaim, I think, is another one. That's exactly what they're starting to do, is that you can go do like continuing education outside of school. And if you can validate, like maybe go to a testing center or something like that to prove that you have those skill sets, then they will verify that you have it, and you get like a little digital badge, and you can put it on your resume or your e-portfolio that sort of shows that you've learned those things. So we're probably going to start digging into some of those things for Presley and start building up her e-portfolio. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of video games, sometimes, like when I'm, for say, playing The Sims, I download a custom content person, and I'm like, I like this person, and then through just looking at the person, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is based off of a real person. Like, I actually got a sim called Cat Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
She was based off of Arena Grande, and I had no idea that someone named Arena Grande really existed. I just thought that she was just made, and her name was Arena Grande, but they changed it to Cat Valentine. So I'm discovering new people.
Discovering new people that way. Yeah, nice. See, that's all kinds of things embedded in what's going on. Yeah, so that's finding a way to measure is one of the shortcomings that I'm trying to find a way for us to overcome, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that as time goes on. But those are kind of the guiding principles, right? Those are the high level things. And like I said, we'll do entire vlogs and blogs and things on each one of these things to talk about them in more detail. But I wanted to try and give a nice high-level summary of why we do what we do and how we do it. So that next time somebody asks me how we do it and why we homeschool and things like that, I can point them at my messy homeschool. Yeah, so that'll be we'll do another vlog on why we decided to do it and what we think homeschooling is that's better than your standard school system. But that's a whole other.
By the way, we're going to end this soon, but I could be talking about this for about 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. We obviously
getting
can
into everything we've talked about, like adding little things about things like video games, talking about Skyrim, and talking about everything else.
It'll be a series.
Talking about BioShock.
It'll be a series. We'll keep doing new videos. So this is the first time that I've ever sat down with you and sort of explained these high-level concepts and the things that me and Mommy like to think about when we're doing our homeschooling work with you. So I'm curious, just overall, and real quick, because we are running really late. Overall, what do you think? Do you think it's going well? Are there things that you'd like to change?
I think it's going really well. But things that I would like to change is every day we must eat food. That's not food that is Parmesan and cereal.
Mm-hmm. You want to change your diet a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, what about the homeschool?
My diet. Okay, the homeschool thing. If I want you to change one thing, it would probably be that we're not getting that it's really spread out. Like it's not like all like I think it's really spread out in different groups. I think the best thing to do is to do like all of these things in like 1 week or day. Is to try and squeeze all of these things into one day because they're kind of really spread out.
Yeah. So we'll touch on this and then we'll wrap up. But I'm just curious because you brought this up now. You think, like you talked about before, like focusing on one subject and one thing, like doing biology for a week and then maybe doing algebra for a week and then doing something else so that you stay really focused on that one thing. Do you like that more than kind of doing a little bit of all three things or all four things that we're studying in the same day? Or would you rather really focus on one thing really hard for a short period of time and learn a lot about that? Or would you want to study have a bunch of different things going at the same time?
I would like to like kind of in the middle, cut up the week in little things, like three. So we're going to learn three things.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 days a week we focus on one thing. 2 days a week we focus on one thing, and the last 2 days of the week we focus on one thing. Okay. Because I know math and I know that we can go until they don't.
Yeah. You just have 1 day off.
And then just 1 day off.
Yeah.
1 day a Sunday probably off or something.
Okay. So we can definitely do that. And so, but you actually want to try and do a little bit more than what we're doing as far as your studying goes, because we're spreading it out too much, and you want to kind of keep it all crunched together.
Yeah, and I want to actually, if I could, I want to actually have like a specific time of day we do it. So like we have from whenever I wake up, it's normally like 6 in the morning or something, to like 2 in the afternoon, and then from 2 in the afternoon to say 4 in the afternoon we do some school. And then for the rest of the day, and then we have and then when it starts getting late, then we're going to do like the Failure's Okay videos stuff.
Okay, that's fair. Cool, excellent. Good, thank you, John. Those are really good suggestions. We'll start rolling them in, see how it works. And this too, this is homeschooling, right? This having a conversation and talking about what you want to do.
This is homeschooling.
This is how we study.
If you like the Presley's perspective idea and stuff, then this and you wish your kids did that in school. Homeschooling is this is basically what homeschooling is. Homeschooling doesn't even get rid of time with friends. It actually adds time with friends.
Yeah.
Because you can have one day you have with your friends and you're like,
we'll
switch that to the day off.
We'll do a whole socialization
for this week. Yeah.
But so our watch, talk, do thing we talked about before, this is what the talk is like. So if we had watched this video and then we sat down and had this conversation, then
we would
this
just
would
be like sitting. I would just be sitting here and I would be like talking about what I would like in homeschool. What I would like to homeschooling. Like if I was public school, we were just walking the flag.
Yeah, that's right.
Since this vlog talks about a lot of things in homeschooling, I'd like to start homeschooling.
So maybe this will be your watch, and then you guys can talk and try some homeschooling can be your do. So we'll leave it at that today. Lots more to come. Obviously, this is a pretty deep topic and something we care a lot about. So
yes, we're gonna have to start a series on this because I'm gonna be talking for 2 hours if we kept doing this video.
We'll try and do something at least weekly on this and keep it moving forward.
Like 30 more minutes. If you watch this video twice, you just spent like an hour.
That's right.
Watching.
So watch the mymessyhomeschool.com. Keep an eye out on Presley's perspective on the homeschool stuff, and we'll keep the stuff going. Ready? Okay.
Bye.
Johnny.